In this community, a lot of this happens. It's like Zoro and Sanji, Zoro versus Sanji. Today, I'm appreciating both of them. This is more the appreciative type of video. And considering the ongoing events in the manga right now, I thought it'd be just like the best time, the perfect time to talk about these two characters, my guys Zoro and Sanji. Now, these two were easily some of the most beloved characters, not only in One Piece, but in anime in general, like for real. Very few characters come to mind that can turn anime fans into the most rabid football type fans, aggressively cheering for their favorite club. The rivalry goes back like a minute ago. And you can say when dinosaurs roamed the land, because it was in a little garden and it was an animal-sized competition sparked by just one single remark by Zoro.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
I believe one of the goals in life is to always get better and grow. Skillshare is a community online for creatives to learn and take the next step to explore new skills, deepen existing passions, and just get lost in creativity. People ask me all the time, like, how to get better at various things in regards to YouTube. Well, this is literally the cheat code. What I absolutely loved was a step-by-step from someone I regard as one of the best YouTubers on the planet, Marquez Brownlee, where he talks about his process from beginning to end. And this is just the tip of the iceberg with Skillshare. And for right now, the first 1,000 subscribers to use the link below gets a month free. How many things can you learn in a month? Click the link below, give it a shot, and get lost in creativity. Sanji asks Zoro to get some meat in a little garden, and Zoro, completely unprovoked, says he'll get some animals that Sanji would never be able to kill, to which Sanji, of course, he couldn't let that shit slide. This, of course, is a direct parallel to Dory and Brogy, but then from onwards, they viewed everything they did as a competition. Like, who was it that beat the pacifists in Sabaody, or who would beat the most fishmen in Fishman Island? Even in Zoro is again a little petty, saying he's worth more than Sanji, 2,000 and 1,000, right? That's their relationship, but they're like brothers. Honestly, I don't think anyone expected how big this feud, if you want to call it that, this dissension between the fan bases, how big it would get, because most watchers relate more to one than the other, and it's easy to pick your favorite. But the fascinating part is that if you do lean one way, you're gradually locked into like a team that will slowly but surely make you see the other side as the opposition, or rather the ops, right? That's partially Oda's construction of their dynamic, where they're constantly bickering and competing. However, this is not what the video is about. Like we said, this is an appreciative type of video, and the focus will not be on their bickering, but on their cooperation. You see, these two will always be in the mood to bicker. That's just how they are. But every once in a while, Sanji and Zoro, they fall in line and follow their boy Luffy, and what I mean by that is the situation becomes bigger than Zoro and Sanji themselves. They put aside their egos, and gloriously to that, and then they fall into their rightful positions and they play their intended roles so perfectly. I mean, the wings of the Pirate King, it is majestic. So we're about to get into it, but first though, what would be even more majestic is if you guys hit that sub button, like the video, turn on post notifications, because that would be greatly appreciated, man. Like I said, majestic, right? But anyway, let's start with the first big instance of this, the Davy back fight, okay? And this recently got a short clip reanimated, by the way, which was specifically for the Zoro and Sanji moment. The entire first half of that battle, they were getting destroyed. They were getting their ass whooped. Their lack of cohesion and coordination was so bad that they were about to lose the match. And that's when the switch turned on. Zoro suggested they should cooperate, bro, for 10 seconds. At this point, the stakes were high. There was a lot on the line. Their crewmates were on the line. They couldn't afford to lose. And this is what I meant by earlier falling in line, as they were both able to put their egos aside for just 10 seconds, bro. And the show they put on, I mean, was it fantastic or nah? When working together, their synergy, it's ironically the best in the whole crew. And based on what they can potentially accomplish, it makes me think Oda made them hate each other so that they wouldn't do it so often and get rid of every single obstacle Oda put in their way. Because again, when they work together, they are a dynamic force that is almost unstoppable. For the following arcs, we surprisingly get more instances of crew cooperation, like with Oars and the Pacifista, but easily the most notable moment in that entire stretch of chapters is Zoro and Sanji stand against Kuma. Now, Zoro gets most of the credit, right? He's the one that shined the most because he actually did it. But the moment he and Sanji had before that was monumental. Taking a quick trip down memory lane, okay? During their first meeting, Zoro proclaimed his dream in front of Sanji, to which Sanji replied, it was ridiculous for him to try to risk his life for that. We fast forward to Thriller Bark. Sanji's willing to sacrifice himself and die, not just so the crew would survive, but take the load off of Zoro as well, because he had his dream to accomplish. So over the course of these chapters, the span of them spending time together, they got to the point that, again, it's like a brotherly relationship where Sanji's willing to die for Zoro's dream, like Zoro was willing to die for Luffy's dream. Bro, this dynamic is scrumptious purchase. This was substantial character progression with Sanji, and Zoro, it was no less. He proclaimed to Luffy that if anyone stood between him and his dream, he would basically kill them. That's what Kuma was doing. But yet here we are, with Zoro willing to put his ambition aside to once again not just save the crew, but save the other person who was willing to offer himself up as well, Sanji. Either one of them could have theoretically accepted the other's resolve and let him sacrifice, but they didn't. The second Sanji said they could find another cook, Zoro, without a single word, knocks out Sanji.
I hate to put you guys out, but it looks like you'll have to find a new cook.
Now, as much as they bicker and argue, it is undoubtable that they deeply respect and keep an eye out for each other, okay? You don't believe me? Well, let Luffy be the judge. Luffy is a character who was for the longest time the best judge of character that we've seen in the story, sometimes in anime, to the point that Rayleigh even implied it was ingrained in his observation haki. Now, when Sanji left for Whole Cake, right, we remember that, Zoro was sitting outside listening into the conversation, and Luffy was teasing him for caring a little bit. And it's also a theme, right, that whenever they act together, it's often the case that they are used to indirectly or directly hype up Luffy in some way. They're his wings, so they're meant to lift him up. Possibly because Luffy and the crew is the only thing they're always on the same side on. If we can recall, Sanji agreeing with Zoro over Nami on dealing with Usopp. One of the many examples of these two being used to elevate Luffy is when they both took down a pacifista, while Luffy took down a pacifista on his own. He can do the job, but his wings can as well. But we also can't forget about Fishman Island, when they intervened to make a path for Luffy to Hody. And the same thing occurred recently when they took on the top two All-Stars and mentioned seeing Luffy becoming the Pirate King. It is very damn close. And we also can't forget an oldie but goodie, one of the more underrated Zoro and Sanji moments that is almost forgotten in the community because of the anime and manga differences, which, you know, it happens. But in the manga, this double page spread, it was iconic at the time. It was when they reached a dead end, but Zoro and Sanji, they cut and kicked the building in front of them to make a path. This was the first panel that came to mind when we saw the wings of the Pirate King, because the composition, it was very similar. And it showed us the great aspects of Zoro and Sanji and just how devastating again they can be when they work together. And I think it's the same for the community. When Zoro fans and Sanji fans come together, I don't think there's any debate that they can lose. I don't care if it's Obama. Anybody that tries to debate Zoro and Sanji fans when they're working together, they always more than likely lose. Because I don't know, man, it's just something that's ingrained in not only the characters in the story, but even the fans outside of it. Now, with all that being said, I personally can't wait to see what comes of the fight, because these seem to be very special fights for them. Not just from a meathead's perspective, but Oda is setting up the fights to give them massive reveals and lore, and personally I think that's enough to make the fights a lot more personal for them than most of their other fights up to this point. Lineage and Destiny, I mean, a theme in Wano, and it's gonna culminate in regards to these two fights in particular, man. So I don't want to understate it, and you guys know it's true. Zoro and Sanji, legitimately two of the greatest characters in anime, period. I was about to compare the two right now. It's just habit, but I think they should be appreciated, especially for the moments that they've created in the story that I think, again, they've cultivated a diehard fan base on either side. More Zoro than Sanji, but on either side, they go hard for their character. But I think we should take moments and appreciate them both for what they bring to the story, because they're so different, but they're both necessary. Zoro can't be a cook, Sanji cannot be a swordsman. Fundamentally, how they operate is different, but they complement each other so well, and that's why they're always on the opposite ends, because even with ideals, they differ. Zoro will cut you down, he don't care if you got titties. For Sanji, hands off. Sanji doesn't use his hands, Zoro uses 3 swords. He's even putting one in his mouth. Imagine Sanji, a cook. That's why I love the fact that he's wearing gloves in Wano, because a cook, imagine him seeing Zoro every time putting this sword in his mouth that his filthy hands have been touching and all these, ew. Fundamentally different. If you want to go deeper to their bath schedules and all, it's different too. But guys, give me your thoughts. How do you feel about Zoro and Sanji, especially when they work together, not separately? I'm not asking you who's stronger. I'm not asking you who's better. Zoro and Sanji together. How do you feel about them when they work together? And just the brilliance that they bring not only to Luffy, but to the story, because it's essential and it's necessary, right? But guys, give me your thoughts again. Make sure to like the video if you did. Subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Follow me on Twitter at BrogDAce. Follow me on Instagram at BrogD.Ace. Thank you to my patrons. I appreciate you guys so much. Again, guys, like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.
I start doubting me, I felt lost. I rewrite it.